Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is Friday. Woohoo! I'm glad. I mean, it's time for a weekend. Let's get through this show, and I'll bring you a lot of information and news you can use, and then we'll all kick back and call it a weekend. What do you say? I'm in favor of that idea. All right, let's see. Where do we want to go first? Let's go to the swamp today. Start off at the swamp. This first story in my swamp report today is probably a story that I would otherwise do on Monday, but we're doing our big radiothon on Monday, and so that means that we won't be doing a lot of content in case, unless there's breaking news, of course, and breaking news changes everything. But you know what Monday is? All right, let's query the group. Mac Maury. Do you know what Monday is?
Well, it's our radiothon.
Yeah, I know. I just said that, but I mean, you know what else it is?
I don't believe I do.
Chris, do you know what Monday is?
The 20th.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's a joker today.
I get partial credit for that.
That's right. Okay, you do. We'll give you a good E for effort there.
All right.
Monday is Joe Biden's 81st birthday.
Ooh. Exciting.
Ice cream for everybody.
Well, that's right. Chocolate chip. That's because that's his favorite. We know. Well, really, we need to stop and talk about this. He's already the nation's oldest president, and it goes up from there. And I have a feeling that this is like you're not gonna see him brought out for a birthday cake. You're not gonna see at the White House. I'd be really surprised if there's any mention at all of this president's 81st birthday, and that's because we're all looking around and we're realizing that well, look, I know 80-year-old people who are sharp as a tack. I'm telling you, it is not necessarily that he's 80 that's the problem. It's that he's 80 and he's cognitively in decline. I mean, it's just that you cannot come away with any other conclusion that the president of the United States is, he's practically brain dead.
Hush up, boy.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I know it's a delicate issue, but you promised us.
My fellow Americans, you're owed nothing less than the truth.
And so I have to give you the truth. You are cognitively in decline. There's no doubt about it. I mean, how many times have we heard the goofs and the muffs and the inability to read the teleprompter.
Think about it. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it. I propose, and I'm going to digress slightly. We're in a situation. With the whole, excuse me. All men and women created by. You know the thing.
Oh, you know the thing. Well, I know the thing, and that is that this is a president who has lost his edge. And I can tell you, as somebody who watched Joe Biden up close for a lot of years, he got to the Senate long before I ever got to covering the Senate. But I covered him for a long time, and he was a guy who could hold a hearing and put a sentence together, had a pretty sharp mind, and then somewhere along the line, people forget the man had 2 strokes. He had 2 brain aneurysms, and I just think after that he was never the same. But, he muddled along as a vice president, and then when he became president, it became very clear this is a man who is out of his depth. He is not able to keep up. Just the easiest example I can tell you about this is to watch him at any event that, you're going to see him in recent days, any event that you're going to see him in the days ahead. He walks up onto a slight little platform. If it's at the White House, sometimes the platform might be a little higher, but it's 2 or 3 steps up to the platform. He goes to the podium. He delivers his remarks. Sometimes they're coherent. Sometimes they're not. They're absolutely incoherent. And without fail, no matter where he is, if it's in the East Room of the White House where he's done 150 events, maybe 200 and 300 events in the East Room of the White House, and he always, when he gets through, he steps back, and he doesn't have any clue as to which direction he should go to exit the stage. Most often Wouldn't you just go the direction you had come from when you walked in? He doesn't remember where he came from. And it's baffling. I don't understand how in the world, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, knowing a little bit about how the White House operates, because I've been around, Secret Service and advanced people, and they always, I mean, it's like the president's about to go into an event, a staffer appears at the president's side just before they enter the event. Just a reminder, Mr. President, you're going to go onto the podium. You're going to deliver your remarks. If you choose to take a question, there's maybe a name of a reporter that you want to call on. And then remember that your nearest Secret Service agent is directly behind you. And if you need to know which way to leave, look down on the floor, because there'll be a giant arrow in duct tape pointing you in the right direction. And so... Good luck, Mr. President. Any questions? No? Okay. And I've seen them go out there and execute it perfectly a gazillion times. This guy gets the same kind of briefing every time he goes out, and he goes to the podium, and then he looks and blinks and turns and points. And he looks over to the other way. You never know. It's so simple. But that's an absolute sign that the man has lost it. And so it's his birthday in advance, because we'll be busy with other stuff on Monday. An early happy birthday, Mr. President. But I'm telling you, understand that he's 81 now. And before if he were to win re-election, and that we all know that's not going to happen, but if he were, he would be 82 by the time he started his second term, and 86 when he left. So, I again, it's one of the reasons why I look at the situation, and I'm pretty sure that the Democrats are not going to let this guy get all the way to the election. They're gonna take him out of the running, and maybe he gets to serve out the rest of his term. But one way or the other, they will not allow him to become the nominee. All right, the Supreme Court in the swamp today scheduled oral arguments for a really interesting case. Supreme Court has scheduled, according to the Epoch Times, several high-profile cases for oral argument in January of next year, including an important challenge to the power of the so-called administrative state. That's right. Conservative and Republican critics have long derided the administrative state as an unelected fourth branch of government. And I mean, it's hard to make that argument that that's not true, because, presidents come and presidents go, administrations come and administration goes, but the bureaucrats, they exist forever. They endure. And they make regulations that often exceed the wishes of Congress. The court's ultimate ruling could alter the current balance of power among Congress, executive agencies, and the nation's judiciary by curbing the legal underpinnings of the modern administrative state, which critics deride as I said, an illegitimate fourth branch of government. The authority of federal agencies has been increasingly questioned in recent years as the conservative majority on the Supreme Court has grown. There are other cases also that have been taken on to the docket. One involves whether a Muslim man from Oregon can continue suing the FBI after the agency removed his name from the no-fly list but couldn't promise to keep it off. Another involves a Texas farmer who is suing the state's transportation department for damaging his family's farm. 10 cases in all were scheduled for hearing dates running from January 8th to January 17th. And if you don't know, sort of an interesting little fact, how do they decide which cases they're taking? Well, 4 out of the 9 justices must vote to grant the petition, or for certiorari, I believe that's the way you say it, or review. In other words, if 4 out of the 9 say, yeah, let's take a look at that case, then they will. So you don't have to have a majority, you just have to have 4. President Biden has signed the bill. I always wonder how they do this. Do they do it with the auto pen? Or does somebody have to fly it? I mean, he's out in California, or he was last night. Do they have to fly the bill to him wherever he is? I mean, does somebody jump in a military jet and deliver the bill to him, or do they just do it with an auto pen? Nobody's ever really answered that question. President Joe Biden has ended the immediate threat of a government shutdown, signing a temporary spending bill a day before much of the government was to run out of money. This was the one that passed the House. A lot of the conservatives in the House, members of the Freedom Caucus, not particularly happy with they're holding their nose. In fact, many of them voted against it, but it went through anyway with the help of Democrats, passed the Senate, landed on the president's desk, and he has signed it. Or his auto pen signed it. I don't know. Did they really fly it out there? Can you fax a copy of that out there and have him sign it? Does that work? Or does it have to be the actual bill? I would love to know the answer to this question. And I've asked this question before, and you get a lot of hemming and hawing. People, tell you they don't want to come clean about how they exactly do it. I don't know why. And then there's this. Andy Ogles, our own congressman from this region, introduced a bill to ban federal agencies from mandating preferred pronouns. His co-sponsor in the Senate is Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. A new bill led by Representative Andy Ogles and Senator Ted Cruz would prohibit the federal government from requiring its employees or contractors to comply with the preferred pronouns of employees using the Biden administration's new Department of Health and Human Services guidance that critics say will see employees fired for misgendering. Can you imagine getting reprimanded or fired from your job for not using an individual's preferred pronouns? Ogles said in a statement obtained by the Washington Examiner, in which he unveiled his Safeguarding Honest Speech Act. Unfortunately, that is exactly what the Biden regime has imposed in its latest guidance from the Department of Health and Human Services. The radical left is actively coercing the speech of individuals, all in service of a delusional woke agenda, says Ogles. The protections of the First Amendment are part of what makes this country the greatest in the world. Preserving and protecting the Constitution is the responsibility of the president and every elected leader. Biden has failed to do so, but I'm glad to be joined by my fellow patriot, Senator Ted Cruz, in our endeavor to block Joe Biden's attempt to silence the people. Yeah, this needs to go away. I mean, me, as somebody who talks on the radio all the time, when we get to these transgendered or transgender stories that seem to populate our coverage these days, it's hard to know how to address someone who was born a male but now prefers to be a female or vice versa. It's just like, please, I'm just trying to do a radio show here. I don't want to misgender anybody. I don't want to offend anybody, but my gosh, this is getting to be a little ridiculous, isn't it? 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
Hostage negotiations with Hamas ongoing, fluid, crime in Tennessee, and a former First Lady has entered hospice care. We'll tell you who. 3:30 Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
25 minutes now past the hour. There's Mac Maury in the newsroom. Good afternoon. You've already said hello, but say hello again.
Hello,
there, Mac.
hello. How are you?
And there's Chris Webber in the control room pushing all the blinky buttons, wearing his Georgia red T-shirt. Oh, it's easy. It's easy to be a Georgia fan, isn't it?
It's not too bad.
Yeah, we're ready. It's a Friday and sort of a cloudy, rainy Friday, but it's been one thing after another here at Stately Wilson Manor. You get a morning and a lot of mornings this week I've had to get up early because I had to do this or I had to do that, had errands to run, and that's all good and fine. But I last night going to bed, so I don't have anything to do first thing. I'm going to sleep in a little in the morning. Oh, no.
Sure you are. Yeah.
That wasn't going to be allowed. I mean, I jinxed it when I said that because, well before 6 o'clock, or right about 6 o'clock, I guess it was, I got awakened by, Cabana wife. She gets up at an ungodly hour. I don't know what she does. I think the woman really may be part vampire because she never sleeps. She just roams around the house aimlessly at night sometimes. I don't know what she's doing. But she comes and wakes me up. Honey, there's no hot water. And I said,
that's a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem because you don't want to take a cold shower first thing in the morning.
No.
And so I said, did you go out and see if the hot water heater is hot or warm to the touch? No. I said, because it can be one of two things in my house. It can be the hot water heater occasionally will go out, or the pilot light will go out, or something will happen and it'll just go cold. Or there's also a pump that circulates water through the house so you don't have to wait forever to get hot water, in the house. So, and sometimes that trips a circuit breaker or it becomes unplugged or something. So it's one of two things. I said, so I was asking, did you touch the side of the hot water heater to see if it's warm? No. Well, you don't want your wife to have to take a cold shower. But so I get up and I go out to the garage and the pilot light's gone out and I had to get it all lit and started again. And so then I'm going right back to bed and I get all the way into bed and
you just get comfortable.
Just sort of get my pillow adjusted right. I'm maybe I haven't awakened too much. I can get another hour of sleep here. And honey, what is it, dear? And, being very polite and nice. And she says, there's no internet.
Oh, good grief.
What do you need the internet for? Well, I need to print some stuff off. And I said, if you're just looking on your phone, just turn off the Wi-Fi and use the regular phone, technology the cellular thing to look at. And she said, no, I need to print stuff off. And, that means getting up again, putting on all your clothes, because my internet connection comes here to the studio in the garage.
Oh, that's right.
Above the garage. So I have to come here and shoot. And as it turned out that the internet was down for the entire community of Watertown. And so it wasn't my fault. There was nothing I could do about it.
Yeah.
And so, but I had to get up and get dressed and go do all this stuff and then make my way back. And then there was that. And then, then there's all kinds of stuff like it's the leaves in the pool pump. And it's just one thing after. I guess these are really our third world problems, aren't they? I suppose.
First world problems.
Was it first world problems? Yeah, that's right. Third world problems. They won't have internet in the third world.
That's true. Yeah,
that's right. Well, anyway. By the way, this story, while we talked about it the other day, that the the Hard Rock Cafe was selling off a bunch of the musical instruments that they have, and for one reason or another. And one of them was a guitar that was once belonged to Eric Clapton. Mm-hmm. And I think they said something like, it could go for $1,000 or $2,000. I said, there ain't no way that's right.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe that was like the minimum bid.
The starting bid.
But you know what that Eric Clapton guitar sold for online? $1.27 million.
Oh. Wow.
It's a Gibson SG with an unusual paint job and an unusual history, and there are all kinds of pictures of slow hand playing the thing, and so it was. And you know who got it?
Oh, someone famous.
Jim Irsay.
Who's that?
The owner of the
Oh,
Colts.
that's right. Yeah, he's a big guitar guy.
He's
I didn't
got
know
he's
that.
got
That's
probably the preeminent
biggest.
guitar collection in the
Wow.
world today.
That's right.
Probably only. I mean, it's. I mean, at least I would say at least he's got the preeminent electric guitar. I think probably our own Vince Gill comes close.
Wow.
But Irsay's collection is said to be just mind blowing, and occasionally he lends them out to like museums and stuff like that, and shows
he tours them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm telling you. So anyway, he got that.
Wow.
It's called the Fool guitar. It's a '64 Gibson SG that was first played on stage by the guitarist while touring in the United States with the rock band Cream. It had a custom paint job on it, and it's said to have been very instrumental in developing the tone for which Eric Clapton was known for. And other guitars on the auction, an electric guitar from Eddie Van Halen collection sold for $117,000. Albert King's Lucy guitar sold for over $63,000, and he said selling Clapton's guitar was like selling the Mona Lisa.
Wow.
Except you can play it. See, the thing is, if you have these guitars, I wonder if Irsay ever gets them out and plays them.
Does he even know how to play a guitar?
I don't know if he even knows how to play. I assume if you collect guitars, you probably know how to play at least a little. I collect guitars and I can't play at all. 31 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock.
.331, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 67 degrees, a cloudy day on Music Row, and it's been a little drizzly and misty, and we could see that sustain. A chance of showers headed into this evening. Traffic and a weekend weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Israeli and U.S. sources saying hostage negotiations are ongoing and fluid. Patrick Reevell in Tel Aviv.
There is some signs, according to U.S. officials and Israeli officials, of progress in these talks mediated by Qatar to try and find a deal that could release hostages in exchange for a temporary ceasefire. For now, though, no deal has been reached. We know that the outlines of it is that at least 50 hostages could be released in exchange for a temporary ceasefire that would be between 3 or 7 days. But there's no agreement right now on the number of hostages that would be released or the number of days the ceasefire would last. And for the time being, the two sides are stuck and there is no agreement.
And Israel has approved the entry of 2 fuel trucks into Gaza per day, which is only about 2 to 4% of the normal amount of fuel that would be getting in. Crime in Tennessee. A man has been arrested for a fatal crash that happened in May back in Clarksville. 40-year-old Gary Heitzen-Rader was arrested for the 2-vehicle crash that ended 56-year-old Mark Norman's life. The crash happened on Madison Street near 10th Street. Heitzen-Rader was booked in the Montgomery County Jail on November 16th on a $90,000 bond. And former First Lady Rosalind Carter has entered hospice care at home. Andy Field.
Rosalind Carter joining her husband and former President Jimmy Carter in receiving end-of-life hospice care at home. Jimmy Carter began hospice treatment 9 months ago. He's 99, she is 96. The former First Lady devoted much of her time at the White House on improving mental health treatment and reportedly gave her husband ideas on helping broker the peace between Egypt and Israel. A spokesman says they are spending time with each other and family.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It's 39 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair on this Friday. A reminder that at 4:35 and 5:35, that little thing we like to call Phone Your Farb Friday, which is always a lot of fun. But, get your thoughts together. We want salient thoughts offered up. Your chance to climb up on a 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself. Couple of programming notes. As I mentioned, Monday we'll be down at the Nashville Rescue Mission for our annual Radiothon. I really love this event each year, and I know that we can count once again on the kind generosity of the amazing listeners of this radio station to support an organization that has a faith-based approach to helping those who are down on their luck if they're dealing with addiction issues, whatever it is. They have a way to help people climb out of the lowest point in their life and turn their lives around. And the stories about people who've gone through that program down there are myriad. There are so many of them. And again, they don't take a penny of tax money, so they do really count on your donation. So tune in starting Monday morning with Dan Madness and Nashville's Morning News, and I'll be there starting at 3 o'clock to wrap things up, take you all the way till 7 o'clock. There's that. And then also, just to make a note of it, save the date, the 7th day of December at the scoreboard at Cedar Creek Marina. We're going to have a free event. It's just all the guys are going to be there. We're going to hang out and do our little radio thing, and you can come by and hang out with us. Again, no charge, no tickets, just show up.
But how much does it cost?
No, it doesn't cost anything. That's the thing. No charge, no tickets, just show up. That's the thing. Let's talk.
Will you give me a ride if I need a ride there? Then?
No, you're on your own to get there. Right. Yeah, that's all right. I mean, if you get close, I'll be arriving late because I'm going to be coming from bucolic Watertown. Just stick your thumb out. I'll stop and pick you up. All right?
Okay.
Okay. Let's do a little gobble gobble. Do we have some gobble gobble? That's right. It's gobble gobble time. And Thanksgiving is right around the corner. And and I normally would save this, but it occurred to me people need to know this before they go to the grocery store. Now, the first thing I want to tell you is that I am an evangelist, a worldwide evangelist for the concept of cornbread dressing at Thanksgiving.
Oh, yes.
I know. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Right? And I have a recipe. Now, this is a story that, it really becomes a problem in my family. It is an ugly argument that we have every holiday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is, because I when I was at Fox, I put this out, on the Fox website. By the way, it's still there. And
that's right. I've seen it.
Yeah, and I would tell people how to make cornbread dressing, and it was an education process for a lot of people around the country who don't know anything about this manna from heaven that we call cornbread dressing. It's great stuff. And they don't know anything about it, so I became an evangelist and said, look, put away that oyster dressing or whatever it is that you call that thing, stuffing. Well, no. I mean, we're gonna show you how to do it right. This is the recipe, and I took a recipe that now my family claims I stole it from my sister's mother-in-law.
Oh,
and without credit. Well, it's a scurrilous lie, quite frankly, and it becomes an ugly discussion at our family gatherings every time we get together at Christmas or at Thanksgiving. And they accuse me of having stolen this without giving her credit.
All right, just come clean, Wilson. It's just me and you here.
That's right. Well, here's what I want you to know. If you want to know that recipe. I mean, I can't imagine that there are many people within the sound of my voice who haven't known the delight of cornbread dressing, because we are in the South after all.
Yeah, you'd be surprised though.
But maybe there are some of those people from California, who moved in here who don't know. And so I have put this on my website, yourfarb.com. URFARB.com. It's right behind today's list of stories. So just scroll down a little bit and you'll see on yourfarb.com the recipe that I did not steal from my sister's mother-in-law.
Mm-hmm. A likely story.
Call my sister and you'll get a much different story, I'll tell you.
So she's on your side.
No.
She's not on your side.
She is one of those who accuses me.
Well, if I got to choose between the two of you, who's telling the truth? Just saying.
And if you are going to have a big Thanksgiving gathering, you need to know that the cost of the annual Thanksgiving meal has gone up again this year. Here from the Tennessean, Thanksgiving's just around the corner. If you're the designated cook this year, you probably have already figured out the dishes you're going to prepare. But what about the cost? How much more will that Thanksgiving feast cost this year? Some commodities, such as turkey, milk, and eggs, have gone down in price since last year, so you get a little bit of a break there. According to the University of Tennessee extension thing, these are the county agents. The overall cost of this year's Thanksgiving Day meals will increase, even so, by approximately 14%. UT's Extension Consumer Economics Leadership Team, led by Professor Ann Berry, surveyed grocery stores across Tennessee from November 8th. This time frame was chosen to reflect some grocers running specials on many items used in the traditional holiday meal. The survey included items traditionally used to prepare a Thanksgiving meal, including turkey. They used the word stuffing in this story. Oh, my gosh. I have marked it out and written in dressing. Cranberry sauce, ham. You get turkey and ham? Boy, that's a fine meal right there.
I do it my family's Thanksgiving. Yeah, we have both.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad deal. Mashed potatoes, sweet potato casserole.
Ooh, that's another good one.
Green bean casserole done the way I like it done. English pea salad. Is that what I used to call growing up peas and cheese? Where you get some peas and you mix it with some mayonnaise and you cut up some little cubes of cheese and you mix it all in together.
Maybe some shredded lettuce or something in with it.
No.
Gosh, come on now. That's a good thing there.
Yeah. Deviled eggs and pumpkin pie with whipped cream, and then of course rolls. You got to have rolls. The leadership team estimated that the Thanksgiving meal would feed about 10 people. This year, the total cost for the complete meal was $128, with that coming to a per-person cost, if you assume there are 10 people at the table, of $12.80 a plate, which is a 14% increase over last year. 14%. Now, why is it higher this year when some of these things have gone down? Well, the answer, they say, is shrinkflation. Reducing the volume or quantity of a product in a package, but charging the same or a higher price. In other words, when prices go up, people say, well, I can't afford that. So what they do is they put smaller amounts in different packaging and try to fool you that the price has not gone up when it really has gone up because you're getting less product. Remember to check your recipes and adjust for any discrepancies. Nationally, even though the pace of grocery prices has slowed in recent months, the Bureau of Labor Statistics found that grocery prices were up nearly 17% in the past 2 years. And, part of it is that everybody has to pay more to keep people working. If you don't pay people a little more, they're just going to go find another job. So you have to start paying people more. And then, people who produce foods and goods for your grocery store, well, they're not going to just eat that cost. They pass it on to you. So labor and food production cost contributed to the increasing cost of produce this year. And that was estimated to have increased in 1 year by 4.1%. Not as extreme as last year. So there are good little bits of news here and there. How can you make your Thanksgiving feast more budget friendly? Don't. This is the 1 year you don't worry about that, right?
I agree.
I mean, if you can make it go, if you can somehow find a way to squeeze it out, you don't want to cut your costs. But here's what they said anyway. Consider buying generic brands, shop the sales, make homemade cranberry sauce instead of buying it. But no, you have to buy it in the can so that it comes out in one big, and the whole can is just laying there on the plate. I mean, it's not Thanksgiving unless you have a can-shaped mess of that cranberry jelly.
Just
stuff.
the jelly, yeah. Love it.
Substituting purebred kabocha squash for canned pumpkin. What in the hell is a kabocha
I
squash?
will pass on that. I don't know.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm not big on pumpkin anyway. Divide up the dishes among your guests. So, I mean, sure, here's a way to save money. Make your guests bring some of the food.
Well, that's one way to go about it, I guess.
I guess that's one way. You can buy day-old bread for stuffing. Again, the stuffing. What is wrong? This is the Tennessean,
Cross
for goodness
that
sake.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, let's put dressing. And consider apple or pear pie instead of pecan. Not
Nah.
pecan, but pecan pie.
No.
Make good use of your leftovers in soups, stews, and sandwiches.
Who said there was going to be leftovers?
Yeah, that's right. Now, by the way, this recipe that I put on yourfarb.com, URFARB.com, the famous Wilson family recipe that I did not steal from my sister's mother-in-law, is enough to feed about 4 people, unless one of those people is me.
Oh.
Because then it's just enough for one.
Wow.
So, you can... if you have more than 4 people, then just make more. Just double the recipe or whatever you need.
Yeah.
Double or triple the recipe. And you're not going to be, it's an easy recipe, honestly. And quite frankly, the recipe, I think, is a very common one. It's printed in a lot of places. Nobody has any real ownership of this.
Well, I don't know.
Except
it.
in the weird world of my family, where they seem to think that I have somehow wronged my sister's mother-in-law. Sue Ann has not spoken to me in years.
Wow.
She really gets her back up about it.
Mm.
But I didn't steal it from her.
Okay. Taking your word.
I'm winking. It's 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Let's talk about gold, which has been used as money for millennia. It's a tried and true store of value, consistent across generations and generations. Some experts have observed that generational wealth can contain as many as 3 or more components: land, art, and precious metals. Now, land and art, well, that's hard to come by sometimes, and you're not really an art expert, are you? No. But precious metals like gold, platinum, and silver are practical solutions. Inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money. So listen, gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. And if you have some gold that was given to you and you're not sure what it's worth, or you're curious about precious metals in general, and you just want to learn more, well, that's what they do over there at Nashville's Gold and Coin. You can learn about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. They're always available to discuss your options and educate you on the precious metals market. Do what I did. Go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Gold and Coin. They do this in a one-on-one appointment, and you can set up your appointment and learn more by going to their website, Nashville'sGoldandCoin.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. Problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Hooden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Some news concerning the Apex Summit, an update on the Alec Murdaugh murder trials, a crash in Tennessee, and some sad sports news revolving around the Cincinnati Bagels. We'll tell you all about it. 4 o'clock, Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Did you say the Cincinnati Bagels?
That's what I heard.
The Everything Bagels. The Cincinnati Everything Bagels.
All right. Listen, you have a hot message from the text line about the so-called dressing.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to just read it as it's written. I made your cornbread stuffing last year for Thanksgiving.
No, it's dressing. Go ahead.
Yeah,
But
anyway. And it was so good, my family asked me who I paid to make it for me.
Well,
there you go. That's a pretty good
That's high
compliment.
praise, again, at yourfarb.com. All right, let's take a look at the markets. Dow Jones Industrial up about almost 2 points. S&P up 5. NASDAQ up 8. There's a lot of flatness in the market. Let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management. John, what's driving this lackluster performance today? Everything pretty flat.
Yeah, pretty flat in the market. It went actually back and forth from gains and losses today, but ended up a little bit positive. It actually represents the third straight week of gains, which is not something we've seen in a while. And really, Brian, the overwhelming belief and really hope of the market is that the economy is headed for a soft landing. The Fed's done raising rates and actually could start lowering rates sooner than later. We've seen Treasury yields fall a bit, and that's really supported equities. although the Fed continues to say that future decisions are going to be data dependent. But at the end of the week, to have 3 straight weeks, that's a really positive thing. But I say next week, we're going to be looking at consumer confidence, revised GDP, personal income. So even though it's Thanksgiving, a bunch of data to look at next week, but a 3rd straight week of positive gains.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Learn more about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock.
.401, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 67 degrees, a cloudy day with rain possible later on in the evening. We've seen some off and on drizzle in the mid-state area. Traffic and a weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit wrapping up in San Francisco, but not before a few last meetings for President Biden. Karen Travers with the latest.
President Biden met with Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador on the sidelines of the APEC summit in San Francisco Friday. While the two leaders have had a tense relationship at times, today they spoke about cooperation between the U.S. and Mexico on critical issues, including migration and drug trafficking.
We're working side by side to combat arms trafficking, to tackle organized crime, and to address the opioid epidemic, and including fentanyl, which when we talk privately, I want to tell you about my great conversation with Xi Jinping on that issue.
And concerning the Israel-Hamas conflict, both Israeli and U.S. sources have said that hostage negotiations are ongoing and fluid. Alec Murdaugh, the former South Carolina attorney convicted of murdering his wife and son, pled guilty today to a separate list of criminal charges. Murdaugh accepted a 27-year state prison sentence for a slew of financial crimes, including money laundering and financial fraud. Murdaugh pleaded guilty to similar charges at the federal level back in September, and he's already serving 2 life sentences for the murder convictions. After today's hearing, Murdaugh's attorney, Jim Griffin, said his client can now focus exclusively on overturning those murder convictions.
He feels very comfortable doing prison time for crimes that he did, and he knew that he was going to prison. He does not feel comfortable doing prison time for the murders of his wife and son, for which he did not do.
And his lawyer continued saying that he was in the throes of an opioid addiction and that it had taken over his life. A crash in Tennessee. A motorcyclist, 41-year-old Shannon McComb of Murfreesboro, was killed in a collision last night in Antioch. The crash happened at around 7 p.m. near Murfreesboro Pike. The driver in this crash, 25-year-old Fernando Orduno Picardo, has received several citations. Officials say impairment does not seem to be a factor. And sports news, Cincinnati Bengals did not list their quarterback Joe Burrow on their injury report over the wrist injury that ultimately ruled him out of Thursday's night loss to the Baltimore Ravens and has now ruled him out for the rest of the season. Dan Graziano explains.
He was not on the injury report all week. If you are not limited in practice, right, and if the injury, that you don't have to be necessarily on the injury report, but it's tricky because the Bengals didn't really have actual practices this week. It's a short week with a Thursday game. There were walkthroughs, and the injury report was an estimation. So the league can't go in and review practice video to see if he was really taking the reps he was supposed to take or not. The question is, did he have an injury? When did he pick it up? If it was before the game and it was something that might possibly limit him in the game, were they obligated to report it? And if so, then they could face a fine.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's 8 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair, on the air, bringing you news and information. hundreds of people have already gone to yourfarb.com to take a gander and to print off the cornbread dressing recipe. I'm telling you, you give the people what they want, and what they want is cornbread dressing.
I think they're just looking to see if you stole it from them.
Maybe. No, it's at yourfarb.com. URFARB.com. And a reminder that, people say yourfarb. How do you spell it? URFARB.com. And you can find the link to that at supertalk997wtn.com. I'm contractually obligated to say. And the other thing that people say is, well, it's Friday, and that means it's also a time for, well, not right now, but later in this hour, Phone Your Farb Friday, where you get a chance to climb up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself, get your thoughts together. We want really, really cogent, clear, concise, interesting things coming from people today.
Yeah, if you say Wilson stole that recipe from you, now's your chance to, get it off your chest.
No, but then we will immediately put you in super secret probation. That's it.
Yeah.
All right, we move on because we gotta talk a little bit about the 2024. What happened there? Oh. Why isn't it? Oh, well, it's dead. We won't be having the music for our 2024 update. It just died. I hate that. I mean, everything in this house is falling apart today. Time for your 2024 update without the music. Listen, I've got some really interesting stuff here. This is an interesting article from thefederalist.com, and I find some really thoughtful writing over there on a regular basis. And again, it talks about how Democrats are sort of melting down, and it says Democrats are stuck, and they did this to themselves. Let's just let me read some of this because I think it's so well written. My analysis wouldn't be any better than just letting you hear some of the really smart thinking here, written by Kylie Griswold. Democrats have one huge, unavoidable problem, and his name is Joe Biden. According to recent polls, GOP frontrunner and former President Donald Trump would beat Biden if the 2024 elections were held today. A Quinnipiac poll out Wednesday, we talked about this yesterday, shows Biden with 46% and Trump with 48%. So he would win by 2 in the general election. A new Fox News poll, also out on Wednesday, shows that in a head-to-head, the former president would prevail with 50% of the vote to Biden's 46, up by 4. And a number Trump has never garnered in a Fox poll going back all the way to October of 2015. But there are deeper and far more meaningful insights to mine from the surveys, and they don't spell good news for the Democrat Party. For instance, it's worth noting that not only does Biden appear to be losing generally to Trump, but the incumbent is losing his own dependable voters to his rival. Polls show that Biden is hemorrhaging black, Hispanic, suburban, and young voters, all demographics that reliably vote Democrat. It could have something to do with how Biden has handled major crises that he's either caused or exacerbated. According to Quinnipiac, voters disapprove of his response to the Hamas attack and subsequent fallout, 54% disapproval. The economy, I'm sorry, I can't read my own writing here. 59% disapproval. His foreign policy, 61% disapproval. His border crisis, 65% disapproval. And his response to the Russian-Ukraine war, 49% disapproval. The implications are simple. Voters are confronting a rare moment in U.S. history in which they can actually compare what it's like to live under the leadership, or lack thereof, of the two major presidential candidates. Do they want Bidenomics or the affordable grocery and gas prices of the Trump era? Do they want war in the Middle East or Eastern Europe or the South China Sea, or peace? Do they want an open border or national security? The Trump-Biden decision is an increasingly easy calculation for voters to make. So Democrats are stuck, and they did this to themselves largely by closing off the possibility of a primary and instead committing to dragging Joe's corpse across the finish line. I love that line. And yes, that really is the strategy. It's not that Biden is a strong candidate by any measure, save for maybe his incumbency. But again, even if that's in doubt after the disastrous first term, he's a demonstrably weak candidate, especially compared to Trump, another reality easily extrapolated from the polls. On the Republican side, in contrast to the Democrats, is still choosing to slog through a primary process. The second-tier candidates are notable governor and a former governor, both beloved by their states and beyond, and Trump is still leading them by 50 points. He's got 48 points on Ron DeSantis, 51 points on Nikki Haley. If prominent leftist governors such as Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer were to challenge Biden for the Democrat nomination, there's no way they would have that kind of lead. He'd have that kind of lead. This week, there have been murmurs of potential challengers, maybe, just maybe not who you would have expected. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was on Capitol Hill, hobnobbing with Senator Chuck Schumer on Wednesday, and refused to answer reporters' questions about whether he'll run for president. This after he divulged last week that the parties did approach him last year. While Democrats might view The Rock as an exit strategy, they still have a monumental problem to overcome. Voters aren't just fed up with Biden. They are fed up with Democrat policies, both foreign and domestic. And that's true. That is so really true. There's no denying Democrats have become the party of mass illegal immigration. Every town is a border town, and even urbanites are done with the Democrat policies overrunning their cities with aliens who suck resources dry. Speaking of cities, left-wing policies have destroyed them from Portland and Seattle to Washington, D.C. Democrats' soft-on-crime policies have caused violence in these places to skyrocket, with carjackings up more than 100% last year and violent crime up 40% in our nation's capital. In fact, just this week, D.C.'s disaster of a mayor declared a state of emergency because youth violent crime has gotten so bad. Meanwhile, Democrats have also become the party of inflation, no-limits abortions, transing kids, weaponizing the federal government, terrorist sympathizing, and every other anti-American policy position you can imagine. That takes a strong leader to overcome. The Rock does a magnificent job at the role he plays in every movie, but he's not the leader. And besides, would today's Democrat Party really vote for a candidate who is a Joe Rogan bro and friends with Trump supporters? So Democrats are left to lie with Sleepy Joe in the bed they made for themselves. And it's hard to feel sorry for them. A beautiful essay. And really, I mean, just absolutely on point, and very cogently puts together everything that is really going on out there, and why Democrats have got to be panicking right now. Here's from RedState.com, new poll: 54% of Democrats want to see a primary challenge for Joe Biden. The news for old President Biden is getting worse day by day, and part of the reason is it's getting worse is becoming more apparent that he doesn't comprehend that it's getting worse. I mean, this is true. I mean, somebody asked him a question about, the poll numbers. Well, you're looking at the wrong polls. You're cherry-picking the polls, Jack. He's talking to Pete Ducey. His name's Pete, not Jack, but I bet he does that a lot. And it's as if they don't tell him this stuff. I wonder how much stuff they keep from this president. Well, we don't want to burden him with that. Don't give him that. Do not go in there giving him bad news. It just makes him angry, and he yells at us. I mean, honestly, sometimes you get into the White House and you are so insulated, but it seems to me even more so with this particular president because, quite frankly, he can't handle a lot on his plate. And I think they keep a lot of things from him because they don't want him to become overburdened because he's not up to the task of multitasking and doing several things at once. And when you give him facts, he gets them wrong. He doesn't absorb them correctly. Because when facts get spit out by Joe Biden, they're almost always incorrect. I think they really do keep this stuff from him. I don't think he knows a lot of what's going on around him. 54% of Democrats surveyed want to see another Democrat challenge Biden in the party's primary. Roughly 28% of Democrats said they did not want another Democrat to challenge Biden. 18% said they were unsure. Younger voters are more likely to say they want another Democrat to challenge Biden. Nearly 70% of those in ages 18 to 29 said they wanted another option in the primary, and 61% of those ages 30 to 44 agreed. Now, look, the younger voters have always been a good, reliable demographic for the Democrat Party. And when you see 70% of those ages 18 to 29 want another option, it says to me that you really need to think about this one thing. Over in Trump world, Trump's got a lot of support, and his people are passionate about voting for him. Over on the Democrat side of the equation, here you have 70% of a major demographic saying they want another option. And if no other option presents itself, guess what they're going to do? Nothing. They won't vote. Or they'll vote for a third-party candidate and take votes away from Joe Biden. One way or the other, neither of those options is good for Democrats. I mean, I've been watching politics a long time. And I've been looking at these things and trying to understand what's going on. And this is very unusual to see an incumbent this week, this soon. And every day, just everything that happens at that Biden White House reinforces exactly what we already believe. And getting them to turn that message around, I don't see how you do it at this point. People, if you don't like his policies, you're concerned about his age. If you're not concerned about his age, you generally don't like his policies. Those two things don't turn around easily. And there's this thing that happens in politics is that when you have a conceived idea or notion about what is going on with a party or a politician, and okay, this is the perception that Americans have. He's old, he's out of touch, he stumbles, he falls, he bumbles. His policies are dangerous for America. Whatever it is, these preconceived ideas. Changing preconceived notions about somebody that's the president of the United States is an unenviable task if you're trying to run a campaign. When asked who they would vote for in the Democrat primary, Biden still maintains a comfortable lead. But see, this is what I'm saying. You see this number, and this is the thing that Biden seizes on. 64% said they wanted to see a Democrat challenge. But they say they would back him if he's the nominee. What that tells me is that his support is a mile wide and an inch deep, and that Democrats are just jonesing for somebody else to step up to the plate. Anybody else, and they would run to that individual and cleave to that individual and leave Biden in the dust. Again, I'm going to say it one more time. I don't think Biden's going to be the nominee. I wish that he would be the nominee. I would like to see that. I think it's in our best interest if they continue to push that train down the track and he becomes the nominee. I just don't see how in the world they will be able to do that. 20 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock. Let's talk about King Associates Insurance in Brentwood, 25 years in the business as an independent agency. Listen, an independent agency is a really good thing. Small agency, they've weeded out the non-competitive companies, and they can give you a policy that will actually fit your needs. I mean, really, honestly, so many times if you deal with these companies that sell insurance on the internet, etc., you're taking a square peg and you're shoving it into a round hole. It's not really perfect, but it's what they've got to sell you, right? Well, at King Insurance and Associates, they can go out there and shop around, shop a bunch of different companies, eliminate the kinds of policies that really don't help you, get you something that's just perfect, something you get a lot of bang for your buck with your insurance that way. The other thing I love about independent agencies like King and Associates is that they give you good customer service because they care about you as an individual. You're not just a number to count. You're a person, and they want to do right by you. You call this number, 615-329-8121. You don't reach a call center. You get an actual person. Multi-policy discounts, 20, 25, 30, 35%. Huge, huge savings. So get your royal review with King and Associates Insurance. Log on to tkinginsurance.com. I'll repeat that. tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance and Associates, royal treatment and really great rates.
My name is Jessica Robertson, and I was like him, addicted to more. I remember things really spiraled out of control for me and him both. And we had hit rock bottom. I couldn't even function enough to keep a job. I was so isolated. He was here 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Just 3 weeks' time, the difference that this program had made, that God had made in his life, you know, and I just remember I wanted that. I wanted that too. I was able to heal and reset. I had a great counselor, great staff members. You know, the love of God is all in this place. And that's what's helped me. And seeing people walk through those doors at first just broken, just like I was. And then a few months later, get to see that light come back on in them. You know, I know that's God working in them.
Holiday travel chaos, an announcement from the Tennessee Titans, and the latest from Wall Street today. I'm Mac Morey on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's Friday, November 17th, and, on Fridays at 4:35 and 5:35, little thing we like to call Phone Your Farb Friday. So get your thoughts together. We'll be doing that here in just a short while. Chance to climb up on the soapbox and express yourself. Maybe you got a bee in your bonnet or a burr in your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a place that you hope you never have a bug. But one way or the other, your chance to climb up on the 100,000-watt soapbox and say your whatever it is that's on your mind within boundaries, because it's a family show. So get your thoughts together. I want those phone lines. I want them snapping today. Maybe you could ask me questions about my cornbread dressing recipe that I did not steal from my sister's mother-in-law. Despite what the rest of the family will tell you, it's not true. And I take umbrage. And so, maybe you want to ask about that. I have often said that the one thing that I really want, and the technology exists, but they just don't do it yet in a big way, is I want to have a pizza delivered to my house by drone. I want to be able to, call the folks up and order pizza and here it comes down the street, and they lower it on my front porch, and I go out and get my pizza, and it's still hot and fresh. And really, honestly, why can't I have that? Seems like it would be a great thing to do.
Yeah, I think Big Pizza needs to get behind this.
Yeah, Big Pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
That's right. Well, listen to this. Florida's Chick-fil-A location launches option on app to have food delivered by drone.
Whoa.
Drone delivery is available at the Chick-fil-A in East Brandon, Valrico, Florida. The one over at 1504 East Brandon Boulevard.
Oh, that one, yeah.
That one, yeah. And you can select the drone option by clicking Chick-fil-A delivery when ordering on the app. Drone delivery is available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. No drone flights on Sunday, however, of course.
Of course.
And can only be delivered to locations within 1.2 miles of this particular restaurant at the moment. But the option is available at no additional cost for a limited time. It's a test. They're checking to see if this is going to work. In videos posted to Facebook, the location demonstrated how drone delivery works by showing the process in its entirety, beginning with the customer placing the food order and ending with the drone gently dropping the order onto a grassy area. You can order drinks, which are sealed before leaving the restaurant, and apparently the reviews are in, and it's like amazing. People say,
"Wow,
yeah, it was this. Listen, it's fast.
Wow,
the food was hot. It was perfect. Thank you." Another person said, one of my coworkers just had drone delivery. Pretty cool. Listen, this needs to happen.
I think they're going to get overwhelmed and going to have to shut it down because so many people are going to want to use it.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing.
I would use it in a heartbeat. And,
yeah.
Because, here in Watertown, I am I'm a patron of many of the local restaurants, but there's only 3.
Choices are limited. Yeah.
3 places that you can get something to eat. And so, maybe, if the folks in Lebanon could shoot me out of, some Chinese food now and then.
I think you might just be outside the delivery range.
Yeah, maybe so.
Just a bit.
It's about 12 miles. Yeah. So, all right. It is 30 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock now on Super Talk.
.431, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 65 degrees in Nashville and some cooler temperatures coming. We'll tell you about it. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. The TSA expecting more than 30 million people to take the skies in the next 12 days alone. Airports preparing. Morgan Norwood is at LaGuardia Airport in New York City.
Airlines say that they're bringing in tens of thousands of employees to handle the crush, the crowds here. And then also TSA. We know that, getting through those TSA lines and such, that is a big frustration for many, passengers as they're trying to get to their destination, especially around the holidays around this time. So TSA is promising to keep those wait times under 30 minutes for regular check-in, but then under 10 minutes for TSA pre-check. We'll see how all of this pans out over the next few days.
And here in Tennessee, BNA is telling travelers that they expect over 35,000 passengers to depart from the city during the Thanksgiving holiday. Some Titans news. The Tennessee Titans have announced a 20-year deal for Nissan to retain the naming rights to the new stadium, for which construction starts this spring. And now over to the Money News. Daria Albinger fills us in on Wall Street's activity today.
It may not have been by much, but stocks closed higher to end the week. The Dow rose just 2 points, the Nasdaq added 12 for the session. The S&P closed up 6. Trading was quiet as the markets rolled to a third straight winning week. It could be quiet next week, too, with a lot of people away for Thanksgiving. Members of the United Auto Workers Union are close to approving contract agreements with Stellantis and Ford, with voting at both companies overwhelmingly in favor. Just a few facilities at each company have yet to cast ballots in the voting, which ends on Saturday. Workers at General Motors have already ratified the deal. Add the European Union and entertainment giant Lionsgate to IBM and a growing list of companies that are pulling ads from the social media platform X over concern that their ads are showing up next to owner Elon Musk's tweets, which endorse an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, or next to pro-Nazi hate speech on the site in general.
And that is the latest news, traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
So how are you faring in this rough and tumble market out there? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. Wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide that simple reassurance with a phone call to this number, 615-488-9303. I'm going to give you that number again. Be sure and get a pencil and write it down at the end of this ad. The experts at Beacon will get some information from you. You have nothing to lose except for all the worry. So get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Again, that number is 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can learn more simply by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com.
Specifically regarding precision ag, this is a movement or an initiative that Pheasants and Quail Forever is taking on where we can help farmers take advantage of the data they collect and during harvest, during planting season, and use that to identify areas in the field that are underproducing for whatever reason. Maybe it's shade, water, there's perennial wet spots, odd areas that are just hard to farm. Farm equipment's getting big now, and it's hard to farm some of these smaller areas. And so these areas that the yield isn't high enough to exceed the input costs, we're losing money on those acres. So Are there some alternate land use covers, wildlife covers that we can use and put on the ground that benefit wildlife but also benefit the bottom line? There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of conservation programs and conservation practices out there that can benefit the land, and they require management. And so some people might be familiar with the Conservation Reserve Program, or CRP. And that is a program administered by USDA for farmers and landowners to take those certain areas out of production and return them to a wildlife cover beneficial to different wildlife.
We started taking non-productive acres years ago and putting them in CRP, and seeing a great benefit of that, not only for wildlife, but erosion control and the money side of it. You know, we have to make a living to stay in business just like everybody else. You know, if you've got non-productive acres that you're losing money on, and you can get something out of them, plus benefit the soil from erosion, plus benefit the wildlife.
It is 38 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk, and because it's Friday, we like to do this little thing. Oh, it's one of my favorite parts of the week, a thing we like to call Phone Your Farb Friday. That's right. We want to know what's on your mind. So get on the phone right now, 615-737-9986. That's right. Let's find out what's on your beady little minds today. No, they're not beady and they're not little minds. We get great questions, have great conversations as a result of that. Maybe you got a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you got a burr under your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a place where you hope you never have a bug. That's right. Just climb up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself. Anything that's on your mind within boundaries, because it is a family show. Don't make me hit the button. Don't make me put you in super secret probation. But we really, it's, listen, people are headed to the airport. People are headed out on Thanksgiving. A lot of people in their cars right now. Let's get on it, folks. Let's fill up that board. 615-737-9986. Got to start with Mr. Bill calling in from Hendersonville. Mr. Bill from Hendersonville. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Mr. Bill?
Brian, I wanted to let you know that you have been in the right all along when it comes to how you pronounce the holidays of Halloween and Thanksgiving, despite what Chris and others might be telling you. I got a couple of examples for you.
Okay.
All right, for example, the capital of Tennessee is pronounced Nashville. It's not Nashville. The state where Nashville is located is pronounced Tennessee and not Tennessee. That white substance that is coming across the border that is so poisonous is called fentanyl and not fentanyl. And the lovely home where Barbara Mandrell used to live north of Nashville is called Fontanelle and not Fontanelle.
Okay.
Also, the town of Louisville is pronounced Louisville. It's not Louisville. And finally, the city where the annual celebration of Mardi Gras is held is called New Orleans. It's not New Orleans. So I hope this clears things up, and Chris will never bug you about it again.
Yeah, Chris, behave yourself. See, that somebody's on my side here for once in a while.
Yeah, that's one. That's just one.
All right, Mr. Bill, thank you for that. Greatly appreciated. Got a phone line or two open, 615-737-9986. Let's go to Aubrey in Murfreesboro. Aubrey, what's on your mind today?
Brian, I just want to say this week, listening to Dan talk to Scott Desjardins, I kind of got a burr in my saddle.
All right.
He was talking and asking questions about the voting in regard to the lack of impeachment on Mayorkas.
Right.
And one of the comments out of Scott Desjardins was, well, I didn't know that, or I don't know. And I'm thinking, you people are up there in Washington, D.C., you're part of the Congress, why don't you know? Because it had already been all over social media who the 8 people were who had helped to keep him from being impeached. And we knew it, but the people who represent us obviously either didn't want to say it or didn't really know it. And that just bugs me.
I didn't hear the interview, but I will tell you this, something I did learn about the Mayorkas impeachment. It was brought by Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then the matter was tabled when 8 Republicans decided that they would vote to table it, and they didn't have enough votes to get it onto the floor. But that's not the end of the Mayorkas story. We've got Congressman Green, who is head of the Homeland Security Committee on Capitol Hill. And I had a story that I read yesterday in this show, which said that he believes that they will have an impeachment vote in Mayorkas, but it's going to go through a regular order process. And they're putting together a report. He's been working on it for some time now. Look, that guy needs to be impeached, but it's not over yet, and that's the good news. And so, watch Congressman Green and watch his committee, because I think he said it would happen probably before the end of this year. Well, we're in November, so it's going to happen hopefully soon, and I am ready for it. Bring it on. Let's go to Steve in Cookville. Steve, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What's on your mind today, Steve?
Yes. Okay, down in Florida, Governor DeSantis fired a district attorney in Tampa. Does Governor Lee have that power in Tennessee? This guy's got to go.
I don't know. I honestly, one of the things that I'm always going to try to do is tell you what I know and tell you what I don't know, and that one I don't know. But I promise you, Steve, I'll look into it. A lot of people have concerns about Funk. I will say that Funk did raise apparently concerns about the situation where we have people who are determined to be unable to stand trial because they don't understand the proceedings, that they are mentally incompetent to comprehend the proceedings, but then they're not mentally incompetent enough to be committed to some institution where you can keep them away from people and keep people safe. He did spot that one. I'll give him that one. But, I've had some concerns about Mr. Funk for some time now, but I don't know the answer to your question, but I'll try to find out. Brad in Auburntown. Brad, you're up next on the drive. What do you say, Brad?
How are you, sir?
I'm well.
We neighbors, sir.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, listen. Hello, neighbor Heidi.
Auburn Watertown. Hey, I just want to make a suggestion. I'd love to see this happen. And I think it would help with the corruption in the swamp. We need term limits, but I got a legit one. First of all, when you get elected, right off the bat, you go through a full financial audit. We know what you're worth, where your money's at. Now, when you come out of term, if you made $100,000 a year and you had a 4-year term, then you should be roughly plus or minus around $400,000. You come in there when you get fired, so to speak, from being voted out. You should go through a financial audit. And if you're $1.5 million over in 4 years, you need to explain yourself. Where did that $1.5 million come from? From there on the term limits, let's do 3 terms. No more than 2 consecutive. If you go 2 consecutive, you've got to step back a term, and then you can come back one more. After that, you're done. No more. And then from there, the last thing I'd like to see, and I don't know if you agree on this, and I think it saved the country millions of dollars. Tell me why someone can do 1 term in the Senate and then for the rest of their life have medical and all dental and everything else. Show me one major company or any company anywhere that when they fire somebody, it's going to give them their medical and health benefits for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, well, the thing is, when you have the ability to vote yourself, actually, they don't have the ability to vote themselves raises, but they can vote raises for the next term, which they often do. But when you're talking about some of the benefits, the bennies that they get, you would not believe. That's only the start of the benefits that members of Congress have. I once did a whole series of reports about this kind of stuff. And I don't know how many of them still survive to this day because I've never done a strict accounting of it. But, I mean, there are all kinds of little advantages that you have to being a member of Congress. But you're right. I love the idea, though, of saying, okay, here's what you were worth when you went in, and here's what you were worth when you came out. How did you make that much money? And what they'll tell you is, well, I handed it over to an expert and they handled it in my stead. And some people can honestly say that, and people just made good investments for them. But I think, when somebody goes in poor and comes out pretty dang wealthy, I think there are real questions to be asked there. Fair enough. Brad, thank you. Great comments. Loved it. Let me go to David in Columbia. David in Columbia, you're up with Brian on the drive. What do you say, David?
Hey, Brian. Good to talk with you. Hey, I just seen on X, or formerly known as Twitter, that
right.
Taylor Swift, she said that if Donald Trump became president, she was going to leave the United States. I mean,
did she really say that, or did somebody say she said that?
Well, I think it was posted by somebody else, but I think what I'm trying to say is that a lot of celebrities have, said that. And honestly, I mean, what do we care? And if that's what you want to do, just make sure you don't make money in the United States either. Don't tour here. Don't sell your music here. Go live in socialist, United Kingdom or move to Palestine.
I've never understood, Tim, this thing that happens where people who are in the entertainment industry, I mean, they go out and they say something that reveals their political leanings one way or the other, or they go to a thing. I saw the other day. I was really surprised to see it happen. Gwen Stefani, she performed at a concert that the Bidens put on in California for all of the APEC leaders. And I would say, why would you do that? Well, I mean, why would you want to tie yourself to an unpopular president and alienate at least 50% of Americans who don't like Joe Biden? If your job is to entertain. Don't get involved in politics. Don't say it, because you are just ruining your product. Let people wonder what your politics are. But people get to be celebrities, and they think that their voice has an inflated importance, and then they go out and they start pondering this and that. A lot of times they don't really know what they're talking about because they're not that well read on a particular topic. And I just would say, why do that? If I were the person who put up a bunch of money to have a movie made, and then my lead actor or actress goes out and starts talking about political things while she's supposed to be out there talking about, or he's supposed to be out there talking about a movie, I would be so hacked off because you're destroying the box office for that movie. And you just keep politics, as somebody once observed, just shut up and sing. Shut up and perform. Shut up and entertain us. That's what I want from my stars and the people that I listen to in the music world. I don't want to know what your politics are. But I think that ship has sailed, and sadly, these people actually are hurting their brand by doing that. All right, listen, we ran out of time. We're going to do this again in about an hour. So if you didn't get through this time, then come back at 5:35 and we'll do it again. And I'm making a mental note of the people who called in, and we'll make sure we get you in right off the top if you call in the next hour. 50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. What's one of the biggest mistakes that I find that investors make? Well, it's typically buying based on past performance. We look at our 401k, we try to decide which fund should I buy, and tend to look at historical past performance over 3, 5, and you even hear investment advisors telling people to look at 3, 5, and 10-year track records. The problem is that what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Well, where did this have a great past performance? Here to here. So we end up buying high. We found that there was one study back in 1986, and it was called the Brinson-Hooden-Biebauer study. And they were looking at what drove investment returns more than anything else. And the study sort of looked like this. They said, stock selection, about 4% of investment differences were due to stock selection. About 2% was due to market timing differences. Asset mix, asset allocation, that was the big deal. Now, what they found, which was fascinating, was that when the pension plans engaged in these two activities, in one study it showed that 100% of the time, investment returns were lower and it increased risk. Not something you want when you're an investor. So this is something that we teach investors to help them sidestep some of these issues. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
A shooting at a New Hampshire hospital. 4 Metro officers back from administrative leave. An update on the Israel-Hamas conflict as the United States tries to get more hostages freed. Those stories more coming up 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Just a reminder that Brian Wilson's favorite cornbread dressing recipe is up on yourfarb.com. Hundreds of you have already gone there. And I just want to say again, I want to deny it strongly. I did not steal this recipe from my sister's mother-in-law. I posted this on Facebook, and my sister immediately weighed in. She says, "Oh, Brian Wilson, you are a cornbread dressing recipe plagiarist." I've been falsely smeared again. Wow. Again, it's yourfarb.com, URFARB.com, and take a look at it before you go to the grocery store. It is now 58 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 64 degrees, a cloudy, little bit of a wet day in Middle Tennessee. Some cooler temperatures possible over the weekend. We'll tell you all about it with a weather forecast and the traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Right now, police in Concord, New Hampshire, report people shot at a hospital this afternoon at around 4 o'clock. That gunman is deceased. The shooting happened at a New Hampshire hospital. It's an inpatient psychiatric hospital. A police officer is always on duty there. The hospital's on a 120-acre campus that is also home to many large state agencies. No details are available as far as a motive is concerned or how many people were shot and their condition. Colonel Mark Hall is the director of New Hampshire State Police and says the shooting was contained to the hospital lobby. He spoke at a news conference this afternoon.
The scene remains active as one suspicious vehicle has been located. The suspect in this situation is deceased. All patients are safe.
And one person was transported to Concord Hospital for treatment. Right now in Tennessee, 4 Metro police officers that were placed on administrative assignment due to the leak of the Covenant school shooters' writings have now turned to regular duty. That leaves 3 officers still on administrative assignment. And Metro Police has not identified any of the officers. The department spokesperson, Don Aaron, has emphasized that this move was, quote, absolutely not punitive. An official said previously that these leaked images were not crime scene photos. And today, the department said that investigation remains active. Israel-Hamas war. Israel has approved the entry of 2 fuel trucks into Gaza per day, but the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees says no fuel was delivered today because of the communications blackout. Patrick Reevell in Tel Aviv.
The Israelis have agreed for the first time to allow fuel to start going into Gaza. And for the first time, they've agreed to allow 2 tankers a day of fuel to enter Gaza. And that will be allowed to allow the UN to support Gaza's sewage and sanitation system. The Israelis say that this was at the request of the US because of the concerns of the humanitarian situation there and the fear that there could be severe outbreaks of disease.
And 2 tankers of fuel is very little for an area with around 2 million people living in it. Even Israel admits it's only about 2 to 4% of the normal amount of fuel that would normally be getting in. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk on this Getaway Friday. A lot of people actually taking all of next week off, and so a lot of people are trying to get out at the airport and get out of town on this Friday afternoon. But a lot of you others going home. You're going to be spending time here closer to home. We're not going anywhere for Thanksgiving because we have, well, a pregnant bulldog. And she is she's we're going to have Monday after Thanksgiving. We're going to have puppies.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're very excited about this. And so we're sort of nesting right now. And so we're gonna just stay home. And I learned, I figured something out. And I Cabana wife, she's wily, she's clever.
Okay.
She's lots. I've always known she was really, really intelligent, but now I'm beginning to think she's diabolical in some ways. because I was talking to her and I said, I like the old kind of green bean casserole where you just get some Campbell mushroom soup and you mix it with some green beans and you put those little French onion things on them.
Yeah.
I mean, and she said, oh no, that's janky.
Yeah, she likes that word. Huh?
She likes stuff that is gourmet. I don't and so I said, well, I like the old slimy green beans casserole. I love that stuff. And she said, well, then you make your own. I said, okay. And then and it has already been determined a long time ago that if I want cornbread dressing, such as comes from the recipe now posted on yourfarb.com,
that you did not steal.
That I'd not steal from my sister's mother-in-law, despite what she says. I have to make it myself. Well, then it was just casually mentioned the other day. Hey, let's fry that turkey this year. And so if anything gets done outdoors, it's my responsibility. I just realized I'm doing the whole dang dinner, and she's not. I mean, what is she going to do? I mean, what part is she bringing to the table? I'm bringing the green bean casserole. I'm bringing the cornbread dressing. I'm frying the turkey.
She's going to open that can of cranberry sauce and right down on the plate. That's
right there on the old plate. That'll be her contribution. Yeah, she's wily, and I just put that together. That most of that dinner is going to be made by me. We're going to have a renegotiation.
You should have no complaints then.
No, we're going to have a renegotiation of this tonight, and I can promise you that.
Oh, it'll work out in your favor. I'm sure.
It's going to turn. It's going to go badly. By the way, again, really honestly, all kidding aside, this cornbread dressing recipe is an easy breezy thing. It is actually, many people use this recipe. It's become a real running gag in my family, although some of them are quite serious about it. They say I stole it from my sister's mother-in-law, Sue Ann, and I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't.
All right.
You can actually find this recipe on the back of I don't know, some of the things that you need, like the Stouffer's stuffing. You can find this recipe. It's the same recipe. And a lot of people have this recipe. But I have reposted it at yourfarb.com, and hundreds of you have gone there. So if you're going to be around and you're going to be cooking your own cornbread dressing, try this. I think you'll like it. It's yourfarb.com. It just go past the regular show prep, and it's the second thing in the list. Brian Wilson's cornbread dressing that he did not steal from his sister's mother-in-law.
Yeah.
All right. Changing and getting serious for a moment, and I know that, when we're in the holiday mood, it's hard to be serious, but every once in a while I come across a really interesting story, and again, my job here is to provide analysis and insight, but sometimes you just come across this article and you say, people need to hear this article. And by the way, you can find the article at yourfarb.com. You can find the link to it. Are parents behind the surge in transgender children? And they describe something that's being casually used in some circles to describe sort of a scenario where the parents, narcissistic parents, may push transgenderism because they enjoy attention from having a trans kid. They like the drama. They like there are just these people who are just sort of like that. They call it Transhausen by proxy, which is a play off of an official diagnosis known as Munchausen's syndrome by proxy, or MSBP. MSBP is a mental illness that sometimes is called medical child abuse or fractious disorder imposed on others, exhibited in most cases, not always, but in most often by women seeking attention by exaggerating or making up an illness of a child or others in their care. So this term Transhausen by proxy has been bandied about lately. And let me just read a few things about what people are now saying about it. Parents routinely post on social media cheering their children's transition or advocating for transgenders' rights. Some parents have been featured in news articles for fleeing red states that block transgender procedures for children and moving to blue states where gender-affirming care, I do not like that term, is allowed. The increase in cases of gender dysphoria and families with multiple transgender children have led some medical and mental health professionals to suspect psychological illness, such as narcissistic personality disorder, is involved in it somehow. Dr. Erica Lee, L.I., is a pediatrician in Spokane, Washington, who considers herself an old-school liberal. She's not necessarily against gender transitioning. Earlier in her career, she considered becoming a pediatrician specializing in gender dysphoria. However, she began to question, see, good doctors and good scientists question everything. She began to question why doctors were advocating for medical procedures to transition children without solid scientific evidence that the procedures came with an overwhelming benefit for their young patients. If the cause of gender dysphoria is unknown in a patient and the prognosis of treatment is uncertain, then radical treatment with morbid side effects is not justified, she said. Dr. Lee believes contemporary gender medicine is no longer based on reality. Now, she said, it's more about ideology, and the outcomes and long-term side effects of treating gender dysphoria are, quote, murky. Until recently, gender dysphoria was rare and occurred mainly in young males. Left untreated, the condition often resolves naturally after puberty. In some cases, children struggling with so-called gender dysphoria turned out to be just gay, according to some of these studies. But in recent years, many in favor of this thing called gender-affirming care argue that medical interventions save lives by reducing suicidal tendency in youth. They assert that it's a human right for people to be able to identify as the opposite sex and that society must be accepting of those decisions. Dr. Lee now, in some cases, sees another force at work: parents with personality disorders. Narcissism, which has similarities to MSBP, may contribute to the proliferation of gender dysphoria claims and shouldn't be ignored, she said. The narcissism of some of these mothers has to be exposed, she said. Mothers in particular may use the attention from having a transgendered child to climb the social hierarchy. She's not only the only medical professional to feel this way. MSBP in parents has been described by insiders working in gender clinics in the United States and abroad, Dr. Lee said. The condition is associated with what is known in personality research as the dark triad. Those exhibiting the dark triad express Machiavellianism, which uses deception to win power. They also express underlying psychopathy, such as amoral behavior, and they express narcissism, which is the need for admiration coupled with the absence of empathy for others. In February, Jamie Reed, a former case manager at the Washington University Transgender Center at St. Louis Children's Hospital, exposed practices at the clinic and described parents who were adamant about transitioning their children. Her revelations became the catalyst for Missouri lawmakers to draft a law barring hormone therapy for minors, much like what we did here in the state of Tennessee. In a July article appearing in LGBT Courage Coalition, Ms. Reed wrote about how children in the clinic were the victims of one parent's own psychological needs. As horrible as it is to say, I did see parents, primarily moms, who showed signs of Munchausen syndromes by proxy. Ms. Reed, who is gay and a mother of 5, described how the center tore families apart when both parents didn't agree to putting their children on hormones. Fathers often attempted to stop the medical transitioning of their children, and staff, she wrote, often referred to those fathers as idiots or said they had patriarchal issues. Often the dads were fighting for the most reasonable things: more time in therapy, therapy with a provider that would actually explore where the child's desire to escape his or her own body was coming from, and time to allow mental health